Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening from wherever you're joining us from. It's a pleasure to have you once again on another amazing edition of the Software Test Drive. Welcome once again. I've got my guests in house already, and I can see that people are already joining in. You still have some time to, reach out to your colleague and let them know that we started already. Let them join. We have amazing speakers today and lots of interesting sessions that you don't want to miss out on. So this is a quarterly test automation webinar. Maybe we want to think about changing the title or the tag of this. But is it still about test automation? Well, I'll let you guys tell me that. So this is where we talk about frameworks and tips and how to's, career stories, ask me anything section sessions, and lots of interesting topics that we bring on here with amazing speakers to talk about them. So today we're going to also go through the talk itself and our career story and our trivia session as usual. So with me here I have Henry. Henry, welcome. Take it on.
All right, thank you very much, Jafar, for that introduction. Once again, I want to say a very, very big welcome to everybody for joining us from wherever you're joining us from across the world. So please let us know where you're joining in the chat box as well. Um, we know the conversation topic for today. We know we're going to be talking about, product failures, how, automation, how test automation also affects that. And, I wouldn't want to go too much into the topic of the conversation for today because we already have our speaker who is going to be talking to us through that. For before we go right into our conversation for today, I have a quick question for members of the audience. So in this day and time, what do you think is the biggest cause of failure today? So in this day and time, in the 20th century, in 2020, 2026 rather, what do you think is the biggest cause of product failure? So let us know what your answer is in the chat box. We'll be waiting what your answer may be. I can see we have someone saying bad code. We also have, yes, another person saying bad code. Incomplete understanding of business requirements. Yes, amazing. Amazing. These are really um, these are courses that most times in like our day to day in the 20th century, part of the things that might cause product failure, we have test automation, we have poor test management, we have loads of things. So for those of you on this call, would like you to respond to that in the chat box. Let us know what the causes of product failure is for you from your own perspective is today. All right, thank you very much.
And while we're
Let
doing
us know.
that, I have an amazing news for us. We're launching our product, Rover AI. Amazing product. Super excited about this. Anytime, any day. And it is an autonomous testing product. Basically, Rover AI is that AI testing coworker that you have that can help you basically just run all the tests you want to run by just defining the goals. I need to achieve this, and then Rover AI is going to pull that up through your URL that you provide or your mobile application, and it's going to explore your product independently, autonomously to achieve that goal. So we're launching out on Product Hunt today, and all you need to do is head on to that link, which will be dropped in the comments, and just upvote Rover AI. This would help get Rover AI to more people that this would be beneficial for. By the way, before the end of the session, we're going to show you how Rover AI works. I'm sure you all will want to see that. So some 30 seconds, so you can quickly head on to Product Hunt and upvote us, and then we can go ahead. Okay, somebody talked about rushed releases as one of the reasons for product failures. Amazing one there. Amazing one, Anthony. Okay, the clock is ticking. Um, you can do that for whole of today. You can go ahead to upvote us. So we're going to proceed now with the session. Harry, over to you.
All right. So please, if you know you've not created an account, maybe you don't have an account with Product Hunt yet, you can make sure you create an account so that it will be easy for you to upvote. So for those of you that don't have an account yet on Product Hunt, please make sure you do that. All right. For those of you that are just joining us and you're wondering what this webinar is about, this is the software test drive hosted by Scandium. And we want you to follow us on all our social media platforms at Get Scandium on Instagram, X, LinkedIn. We also have a WhatsApp and a Slack community that we want you to join. So please, if you haven't done that yet, please make sure you do that as you're upvoting for us on Product Hunt. So, drum roll to the topic of the conversation for today. Ladies and gentlemen, the test management gap, why products still fail despite test automation. And to speak with us today, we have an amazing speaker. She is um, a software quality assurance professional with over so many years of experience. I just want to read the profile so that we can do an introduction for. All right, Christine Giavoni has been in the software testing industry for 16 years and is the author of 3 books: The Complete Software Tester, Logical Fallacies by Testers, and The Professional Software Tester. She's also the creator of 2 courses, which are Postman Essential Training on LinkedIn Learning and Monday Morning Automation on YouTube. Distinguished guests,
Great.
ladies and gentlemen, of the Software Test Drive, our speaker for today to talk to us about the test management gap, why products still fail despite test automation. Ladies and gentlemen, please, by saying welcome in the chat box, let's say welcome to our speaker for today, Christine Giavoni, as she speaks to us on the test management gap, why products still fail despite test automation. Thank you very much for joining us today, Christine.
Oh, thank you so much
Hi,
for having
Christine.
me. Okay, let me
Hi.
share. Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear
Yes,
you. We
Oh,
can.
absolutely. We
okay,
can
good.
hear you now.
Good.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So let me present my slideshow then. Um, so let me share my screen. Present. Let's see. Share screen. Let's see. Share screen. Allow. Okay. Window. All right. Can everybody see my slide deck now? Yes. Can you see? Oh, it's coming, I think. Can you see my? There it is. Okay. All right. Looks like you can see it now. Okay. Well, let's get started then. I am excited to talk to you about 7 strategies to keep your test automation healthy. So, why is keeping your tests healthy so important? It's important because tests are only useful if they are trusted. So, it doesn't matter if you have 1,000 tests that are covering all of your code. If your team does not trust the results of those tests, it's like not having any tests at all. So, what does it mean for tests to be trusted? It means that tests have a high pass rate, over 90%. It means that the test environment is reliable. So, you don't have a nightly test run where everything fails and somebody says, oh, it's because the QA environment is down. Tests are monitored daily when tests are trusted. They're set up so that they will really fail if there is a bug. There aren't any tests that run and pass no matter what's going on in the code. Flaky tests are quarantined until they can be fixed. So that means that all of the tests that are currently running should be providing trustable results. So what happens when tests are not trusted? When tests are not trusted, it means that test failures don't get investigated. You might have scenarios where somebody is getting ready for a release, they run a bunch of tests and there's 1 or 2 test failures and they say, oh, those tests always fail. Well, then what use are that? That means nobody's investigating to see if they're really trying to alert us to a problem. If tests are not trusted, that means that the time maintaining the tests is wasted. You might have a QA team that spends lots of time trying to maintain the tests, but if the development team doesn't trust those tests, the testing team is just wasting their time. When tests are not trusted, more time is spent rerunning the failing tests than it would have taken just to run the tests manually. It also means important tests might be skipped. So you might have tests that are failing, nobody does anything about them, so nobody looks into them, which means that the test isn't really running. You're really not actually testing that part of the code. When tests are not trusted, the team members don't want to learn how to use the tests, how to run the tests, how to add to the tests. So again, they're not providing any value. And finally, when tests are not trusted, bugs go undetected, because there might be a failing test that is trying to indicate to the team that there is a bug, but the team's not paying attention. So the bug winds up being released. So we're going to talk about 7 tips to help keep your test automation healthy so that it will be trusted. And tip number 1 is to prioritize your tests. Oftentimes when teams get involved with test automation, they get very excited about it and they add a lot of tests all at once. And they might not, because it's a new project, they might not be structuring their tests in just the right way. So there might be a lot of failures or maybe a lot of false failures. So then that just winds up making it confusing for everybody. So I really recommend that at first you just automate your most important tests. And the way that I like to prioritize is by arranging tests by level. So what I call level 0 is your basic app functionality. Can I log in and can I do the most important thing that this application is supposed to do? And then level 1 is the most basic task for each feature. So let's say you have 4 or 5 different features in your application. You would choose the most important task for each of those features. And then level 2 is the top tasks for each feature. So if you have 4 or 5 features, each one of those features, you might have 4 or 5 things that you test with that feature. And then finally, level 3 would be full regression, testing everything. So you automate your level 0 tests first, assuming that they are good candidates for automation. And we will talk about that a little bit in the next tip. And then once you have those basic tests running and passing and being reliable, then you start to add more tests so that you are building trust with your team. So tip number 2 is not everything needs to be automated. Some things are difficult to automate. One example is third-party integrations. Your application might integrate with some other company's API, and you don't have any control over that API. So if the API is down or if the API is slow, that's going to affect your test. Also, sometimes you have device integrations. For example, you might have a mobile application that is taking a picture with the camera. So that might be more difficult to automate depending on the tool that you are using. And there's an American expression that goes like this: sometimes the juice is not worth the squeeze. And what that means is, if you can imagine juicing an orange to get some orange juice, and maybe the orange is really tough and you're squeezing it really hard, and after all that effort, you only get a tiny bit of orange juice, that's where the juice isn't worth the squeeze. And in test automation, sometimes an automated test will take more time to build and maintain than it would be to just run a manual test dozens of times. So you have to ask yourself, is the juice worth the squeeze here? When in doubt, when you have something that you would like to automate, but you think it might wind up being more trouble than it's worth, automate your other top priority tests first, build up that trust, and then try the tricky test and see if it's worth the squeeze. Tip number 3 is not everything needs to be a UI test. And probably most of you are familiar with the test automation pyramid, which describes that the most tests you want to have in automation are unit tests, because unit tests are extremely fast. They don't depend on any underlying data store, and they're very reliable. And then the next level is your API tests. They do interact with the data store, but because that's their only interaction, they are also fairly quick and fairly reliable. And then that smaller part of the pyramid is the UI tests, because those have lots of integrations, front end and back end. Those can tend to be slower, and they are definitely more flaky. So this doesn't mean you shouldn't have UI tests. UI tests are important, but you want to save those UI tests for your important customer flows, and always be asking yourself, what could I test with a unit test? What could I test with an API test instead of the UI test? So tip number 4 is to set standards and enforce them. Make sure that you are naming your tests consistently and that you're keeping your tests organized by feature area. This way, people will be able to look at your test suite, find the tests that they need to find. Everything, all the names make sense, so it's easy for people to locate the right test. Each test should test just one flow, not many flows. Sometimes when people get started with test automation, they're so excited that they manage to log into the application with their automation that they feel like they should do a whole lot of things in the test. But remember that every time you add something new to your test, that's another point of failure. So it's okay to do user flows. For example, if you had an e-commerce application, it's okay to have your test log in, put something in the cart, and check out. But it wouldn't make any sense to add something like, oh, I think I'll have my user change their password while they're in there. That would be a different flow. So you want to keep your flows separate. Also, make sure that you're reusing your test steps. If you've got a login step, make sure that everybody, all of the tests are using that login step, so that if you ever have to change it, for instance, if the password for your test user changes, you only want to change it in one place. You don't want to have to go through every single test and change it a whole bunch of places. Also, make sure that before you merge new tests in, that you've run your test several times. As I already mentioned, UI tests can be flaky, and so you want to make sure that the test is running and passing consistently before merging it in and having it run regularly. And make sure that you have a designated person or a group of people to review the tests. Don't just let people throw any old test in there. Make sure that the tests are following your standards, and that will help keep all of the test automation healthy. So tip number 5 is to manage your test data. So sometimes in our tests, we create a point of data. Let's imagine that we have a contact list. And so our test is, we want to add John Doe to our list of contacts. And then we want to look for John Doe in that list to make sure that he got added. Well, if we don't clean up John Doe at the end of that test, the next time you go to run the test, if the adding of the new user fails, but then you go and look for him, you're still going to see him there because there's a John Doe still floating around in your contacts. So it's a good idea to set up and clean up your data wherever you can as part of your setup and cleanup steps for your test, so that you always have a clean test. Then another cause of flakiness is when you're sharing your test environment with other people and someone goes in there and changes the data. For example, if you had a test user with a specific password and you were using that password for all of your tests, and then some other tester went in there and changed the password for some reason, all of a sudden all of your tests are going to fail. So it's a good idea to have a test account that's set aside just for test automation, and everybody else knows to stay out of that account. If they've got manual tests to be doing, they should be doing them someplace else in some other account, so that they're not messing up your test data and your tests. Tip number 6 is to set up your tests for fast feedback. Slow tests mean slow feedback. And sometimes there are situations where there are so many UI tests that the tests might take more than an hour to run. And your developers are waiting for feedback. They're saying, I want to be able to commit my code and push it out to production, but I don't want to have to wait 2 hours to find out if the tests pass. And so then they might start skipping the tests. So it's a good idea to try and give your developers fast feedback so that they won't have to wait for their test results. So one way to do this is by setting your tests to run in parallel. So you divide them up into groups, and then they're running more than one test at a time. And even if that's not possible, you might want to also set up your tests so that they can run just one feature at a time. So let's say a developer was working on changing the login flow and they wanted to make sure that they didn't break login. It would be great if they could just run the login tests. And then they could say to themselves, okay, I feel pretty confident about this because I see that the login tests are still working. So then, tip number 7, very important. Monitor your tests for flakes and failures. So you will probably want to set up a nightly run for your tests so that every morning you are checking and you're seeing, how did all of my tests do? Are they still passing? Are any of them failing? And then if you see some failing, investigate, figure out why they were failing. Keep track of what is failing. And then as you're keeping track, you can identify which tests are flaky and which tests are failing regularly. And in the next couple slides, we'll talk about how to deal with those flakes and failures. So handling flaky tests. So you can see in the illustration here, there's a test that ran for 10 days. It passed 70% of the time, but 3 of those days that test failed. That really looks like it's probably a flaky test. So one way that you can deal with flaky tests is by setting a retry in your test automation system. So basically how that works is the test runs, it fails, the testing system reruns the test to see if maybe it was just a fluke that the test failed. So that's one way to handle flakiness. But something to consider is that when you run those retries, that makes the test execution time longer. So if you have 100 tests and 20 of them are failing and have to rerun, it's like running 120 tests because you've got to run some of those tests twice. So then another thing you can do is to quarantine the tests that have a high failure rate. If you see a flaky test that's failing more than, let's say, 10%, 20% of the time, that's a high failure rate, and you want to make sure to quarantine that test so that the developers and other people who are watching the test don't start saying, that test always fails. It's no big deal. It's just flaky. Quarantine the test. Just don't run it. And then look into the problem. Find the point of flake. Where is it starting to go wrong and why? So once you've found that point of flake, see if you can find a workaround for that flaky thing. So sometimes it might be you click on a button and the button click registers. Sometimes it doesn't register other times. Sometimes it could be a race condition where you're waiting for the page to load and the element that you want isn't there yet, but sometimes it is because sometimes the page loads faster. So see if you can find some ways to work around that problem. And if you can't find a way to work around that problem, maybe just remove the test. Maybe this is one of those juice isn't worth the squeeze moments where you say to yourself, this would just be better being a manual test. And then there are the failing tests. Failing tests are tests that fail all the time. And so what you want to do first with those tests is to quarantine them. Stop running them in the regular test run so that people don't get used to seeing failing tests. A failing test should be a real indication of, I've got to do something about this right now. So quarantine those tests and then investigate the failure. And here are some of the reasons why tests might fail. There might be an environmental issue, like we talked about before. Maybe your test is expecting a certain user to be in the test and the user isn't there anymore. So you might want to seed the data at the beginning of your test so you know that data will always be there. Another problem can sometimes be pagination. Sometimes if you're adding a lot of resources to your test environment and you're not cleaning them up at the end, you might wind up with a long list of resources, and then the one that you're looking for is now on page 2, but your test doesn't know to look on page 2. So a good fix for that is to make sure that you're cleaning up the data. Sometimes with automated tests, if your test fails, the data doesn't get cleaned up at the end of the test. So you might want to set up a nightly job to do a complete cleanup of the entire test environment. So that cleanup happens every night, and then that keeps your test environment nice and neat. Another common cause of failure is a flaky method. So sometimes, like I mentioned with clicking a button, sometimes the button click is registered, sometimes it isn't. So something that you can do there is to add a retry to the method. You might want to have a click button method where you go to click the button and then you have a check to see if the button click was registered. And if it wasn't, you click the button a second time. So that's a good workaround for flaky components in your software. So here is a sample flaky and failing test policy. So in this scenario, let's imagine that we have a company where we've got a QA team of automation engineers, and then we also have development teams who are developing the code for the application. And it's the responsibility of the QA engineers to create the test framework and to monitor the nightly test runs. But it's the developer's responsibility to contribute new tests and to fix tests if they're breaking. So in this scenario, here's a policy that we might want to use. So the QA automation team is monitoring the nightly test runs. And what they've defined is a flaky test is a test that fails more than once a week. And they've defined a failing test as a test that has failed for 3 days in a row. And whenever they see those flaky and failing tests, they quarantine them. So they're not being run until they take action. Then they investigate the flaky or failing test for a root cause, but they don't spend more than about 30 minutes on that because, as I mentioned, it's the development team's responsibility to fix those tests. But if the QA automation engineer goes in and they say, why is this test failing? And they see, oh, it's because this button identifier has changed. Now the test can't find the button anymore. That's an easy fix. Then they just fix it right then. So the QA team will fix some tests if they find a really easy fix. But if it's a bigger fix, then what they do is they log those flaky and failing tests as stories, and they assign them to the owning team. And then they let the owning team know, you've got a test that is flaky. I have quarantined it, which means it's not going to run anymore. I've created a ticket for you to fix the test, and here it is. And then the owning team is expected to fix the test within 2 weeks. Okay, and that is all I have for you with my 7 tips to keep your test automation healthy. I am looking forward to taking your questions. But before I do that, just want to remind you all of the different ways that you can interact with me and my products. So I've got 3 books, The Complete Software Tester, The Professional Software Tester, and Logical Fallacies for Testers. And you can find those at Amazon. And if you just take a screenshot of this slide, you'll be able to get to those pages and order those books. Then I've got 2 courses. I have Monday Morning Automation, which is a YouTube course, which is completely free. And that teaches absolute beginners how to write test automation. Then I've got a course called Postman Essential Training, which is on LinkedIn Learning. And that teaches people how to use Postman and how to test APIs. Then I've got my website, thinkingtester.com, where I have some blog posts, or you can connect with me on LinkedIn or on X. Okay, that is all I have for you. Thank you.
Amazing, amazing.
Say a
Thank
very
you.
big thank you to Kristen in the comment section. Let's say thank you, Kristen. Thank you, thank you, thank you for your amazing session. Jafar, up to you.
Yeah, I kind of picked up quite a lot. It was a gold mine, literally, because these are things that if you've worked in a real, product team, you face some of these issues daily, and at some point it gets to a choke point. So you're like, how do we get out of this? I mean, it's always this issue or that issue, something failing here. And like she said, it gets to a point where tests are not trusted. The very first thing people do is just skip them, so that we can go. I mean, I don't want to wait. It's almost always going to fail. And these are tips that really would help, make things better. And, you can avoid some of these issues. Thank you so much for sharing those tips. I think we should have this framed sort of, and I mean this. Ibrahim, help us look into that. I mean, this 7 tips summary or something. We could have this, where we can share with people, because I think a lot of people need to know and work with these things. Thank you very much for that amazing session once again.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Great. So if you have questions, it's time to start dropping them in the comment box. We're going to take those questions. So please start dropping your questions there. So
All
while we're taking those
all right.
questions, Henry,
All right, all right. Like I said, if you have questions, please drop it in the comment section for us. And to our second speaker for today, before we go on introducing our second speaker, please, I want to remind everybody that our product hunt link for Rover AI is in the comment section. So please go ahead, click on that link. Let's go to product hunt and help vote Rover AI. So please engage with our post on product hunt and please do that as soon as possible. The link is already in the comment section. So amazing, amazing. To our second speaker for today, drum roll, drum roll. Today, he is going to be talking to us about a special career story in QA in the software testing world. So, just brief introduction. James Oya is a senior software quality assurance engineer and game developer with over 8 years of experience across fintech, banking, and gaming. He currently serves as head of quality assurance and certification engineering, leading QA strategy for national scale payment systems and improving performance for 110 TPS to 803 TPS while supporting millions of daily transactions. It specializes in test automation, performance testing, and DevOps using tools like Selenium, Cypress, Playwright, APM, JMeter. James is also the co-founder of Dash Studios, where he leads the development of innovative games like Nouns Hunt, a globally recognized multiplayer word game that has won awards including the Arc Pitch Best Mobile Game Award, sponsored by Google, and Art of Technology Lagos Award. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, let's make welcome our second speaker for today, the test driveway, by saying welcome, James, in the comment section. Let's welcome our second speaker for today, James Oya, as he speaks to us about a special career story. Thank you very much for joining us today, James. Hello, James. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
It's to start. And 1 second.
Okay, you're good to go, James.
All right. Okay. So I'm going to go high level, right? Compared to I know Kristen have actually spoke a lot about the gaps and how to actually do test automation itself. But so what I'm going to go with now is in the aspect of how we can actually improve our general overall product deliverable itself. So I'm just going to focus on that mostly. right? So first of all, let me just open my slides so we can actually see it in a better view. All right, so what's automation, right? Automation, it's the process whereby you are trying to speed up processes, right? It's using technology to make things faster. So you're looking at my definition here. It's the process of using technology to execute tasks with little or no human intervention. So a very good example to this is the traditional system that we use, like whether we go to the bank itself to get our teller, all those kind of things to actually get money, right? We withdraw, we have to start signing and the rest. So this is like a tedious process. So things like ATM actually automate this process and POS. So rather than you going to the bank, you can actually just do it using a card, and the authentication itself is basically that card. So now the idea of automation is you are basically automating a process, like speeding up a process or making the process less repeatable as much as possible. So now for test automation, the same idea but just apply to tests. All right. That's in this case, software runs pre-written checks against an app, compares the result to what's expected, and tells us whether it pass or fail without a human clicking through every screen. So now we test our applications, right? The reason why test automation comes out is because of we can't be testing particular feature multiple times. Like we test a particular feature from one place to another. So what we do is that to speed up this process, right, we basically write a script whereby the system at this point in time validates if what is we're actually working on, what we did on is correct. So the way the system validates, for one case, as a professional QA engineer or a professional engineer in general, you know what you're expecting. So you compare what's the actual result you see to the expected result. But now, because this is the software script doesn't know what you're expecting, so at this point in time, you have to have a script that is written, right, that compares the actual results you are getting with what you're actually seeing. So why we automate, right? You can see the four reasons here. So if automation doesn't cover these four reasons, then it's not well done. So that's remove repetition, increase delivery speed, improve consistency, and give faster feedback. So yeah. Now to the main parts, the core problems, right? So the reason why we're here is because we want to learn on how to deliver products faster. We want to learn, apart from only learning automation, we want to be able to understand systems better and produce a better product to the infrastructure and to our to our industry. So now the thing now is we already know what automation does, like fast execution, regression checks, CI feedback, repeatability, right? So for the regression checks, like this whereby you are trying to ensure that the system that already exists, right, works as expected, even if you add a new feature. So when you say regression, you already have an existing system that is there. But because you want to add a new feature like a login button or let's say a validate button, but you already have a sign up and other processes there. So due to the fact that you added that, you have to also make sure that that thing you added doesn't affect the existing system that is already there. So that's where the regression checks, and this is where automation works powerful, very well. So CI, continuous integration, this is basically going to run throughout the SDLC life cycle to the points from the source code to the point of where the user uses it itself. Yeah. So now there's a gap in this. So this is post scope, weak traceability, symptom fixes, no risk ownership, no performance view. Now, all these things can lead to what we call box escape and trust drop, user suffer, and even death, depending on the system we're building. Yeah. So automation is necessary, right? But it's not sufficient enough. Unless we add something. So now for the next part, now we're going to talk about why products still fail despite automation. Now this is the main part. So we're thinking about this now. We're going to talk about the 5 reasons, right? 5 very good reasons in this SDLC life cycle. So automating limited scenario. So you the way automation works is that you are basically have a script, right? You already write. So automation is basically limited to what you script out, to the scope you have, right? So now you automate limited scenario. This is very possible because at that point in time you are focused on, let me say, the speed. You're focused on okay, go on the deliverable and the rest without going to backtrack your planning, your management. You have to actually backtrack. You have to make sure that you start your testing from the discovery stage, from the planning stage. When that output is about to get, you have to also verify, do traceability and the rest. So without all this knowledge, you'll be able to get these issues with bugs on the production itself. Now, if you look at the next stage I'm talking about, like that's weak requirements and documentation. So this also speaks to that same part, right? So weak requirement and documentation, right? This is whereby in the planning phase, like most of the time, you see a product planning and QA is not part of that planning. So now the requirements of what to expect for the deliverable might just be the happy part, right? So that happy part, it might just be very vague. It might even be a vague thing. So sometimes developers were, let me say, more based on how we make this thing work, right? We're more focused on the delivery itself. But now, if these documentation are well structured to a level that it's easy for them to understand and give a very structured work, especially to the QA. And if they are there from the start, it will enable, it will reduce the fact of the product failing itself. So now QA joins late. I spoke to this earlier. So all these things are somehow linked. So QA should start from the beginning part, should be able to know the planning. So this is to be able to create the best automation script so that we know that we cover it from the highest risks to the lowest. So root cause not fix. So this is whereby you're trying to, like, you have an issue, right? And your idea of the issue is that you are basically focused on fixing that issue. But the truth is that that issue came up because of a particular thing that you did, or a particular thing. There will be a root cause that caused that issue, right? So our idea of mindset of whenever we're trying to build a system is that as much as you want to fix that issue, we should be able to know why that issue happened and avoid the root cause. So if an issue happens today and it happens, let's say you fix it today, but it happens tomorrow, trust me, logically speaking, you have not really fixed it. You just temporarily solved it. So that's like a temporary solution. As long as the issue still surfaces. So the idea now is to be able to prevent the issue from happening, because that this causes a loss of trust in the user itself. Non-functional testing missing. Now this is a very common scenario in most organizations, right? We focus on functional testing, focus on automating our scripts and the rest. But the truth is that we always tend to forget to automate our non-functional aspect of testing, which is the security, right? So security will be part of our SDLC life cycle, which is performance. Performance testing should be also part of the SDLC life cycle to ensure that as much as a product is failing, as much as the product is good on the functional aspect, like where login button is working and the rest is working, what happens when a lot of users uses the application? What happens when somebody tries to do a security attack? What happens? So all those kind of things has to be done well to check to ensure that the system is working properly. Yeah, so let's go to the next. All right, so from this part now, I'm going to talk about like the flow, right? Similar to my previous one, but it's more of like the flow. So from symptoms fixing to the root cause prevention. So this should be our mindset. It's a very straightforward mindset in a way. So when an incident breaks, right, the first thing that should come up our mind is, okay, why is happening? Usually when the incident breaks, it does come up, okay, everybody comes to fix that issue, right? But now the thing is, we also think about the root cause of that issue, why it happens. Then when we now found that root cause, now we now do control, which is preventing the repeats, right? We prevent the repeat from that happening, and we add it. Next stage, we add it to our automated test. So it's not only solving that problem and preventing, like we have to add it to our test to ensure the next step, which is monitoring itself. So that monitoring will basically make sure that, okay, this is continuously working, right? And if as much, because usually there's a possibility, one thing that you know for a system cannot be 100% perfect, cannot be up to 100% uptime. But that's why we do monitoring, to ensure that the 99% that we're trying to achieve, that 1% we discover it early as much as possible. All right, so now this part, why in this extra slide is for the area we're in, because we're in the area of AI and vibe coding. We have everybody, like most people, trying to do software engineering. So now this is where quality bar has raised to the top, right? This is where quality is more essential than before, right? Why? Because we have AI that can accelerate code generation, test drafting, documentation, test data creation. But now, also, these things can also bring out hidden bugs, security mistakes, misread requirements, weak edge cases, false confidence. So the AI does what you give it to do, right? It basically makes you an application for you. But the truth is, there's some other standards that it misses, because someone that does like an actual software engineering that actually checks those standards, things like OWASP technique, SAS, DAST, ensure that the application itself works properly, and we don't have any security vulnerability. We're not hard coding applications. We're not doing all those things. So those kind of things now, the fact that AI now helps us to do all those console, developers can become a little lazy, which is not bad, because AI helps us to solve problems. But the laziness can now help us to miss a lot of things, which causes bugs on, and which makes products even feel more on production. So we should always make sure that our test covers all these things, right? Even take these things early. And the fact is, we should follow this idea of planning from the beginning stage to the end. So next. All right. So now this is where I was talking about the non-functional parts, right? The performance testing, the failures, many things discovered too late. So we have the functional testing, which so the difference is that functional testing focuses on the features itself, like normal features that you are seeing, like logging, all this kind end-to-end features to know whether there's bug or not. Why non-functional is more of like the behavior itself. So we usually focus on that functional part. So the non-functional part is something that we should also automate and should be part of our pipeline release. There are some systems that actually deal with a lot of infrastructures, right? So most of the times the issues they have is not only, oh, the code is having issue. It's possible that the issue that they have is basically database is not reading properly, or the issue is that there was runtime, the server wasn't able to handle the request. Those kind of things happened because it was not well vetted. We didn't have checks, right? We didn't do a pipeline whereby there's a performance test to check all those things. So this is why we should also add it. These are one of the very big reasons why products fail when they automate their test and they focus only on functional, right? What performance answers for us is how does the system behave under expected peak and breaking point load? Another one is resilience answer, right? What happens when dependency slows down, queues build up, or capacity is reached? What happens? We need to be able to answer these questions by making sure that we actually test it properly and add it to our pipeline and automate it. Now, what this helps us to do is response time. So the critical things we need to check is the response time, which is basically the time it takes for the server to receive to respond back to the client. That's how long the users wait. And the typical example is whereby you're loading your login page. If it takes like 4 seconds, it means that it just takes 4 seconds for the server to respond to the client. So we should be able to know this. TPS, how much the system handles transaction per second, right? How many can it handle? Can it handle 100 transactions per second? We should know where our limit is and optimize it. Because when we know it, we can always optimize it. Error rates, where does the reliability drops? Where does this thing start failing? And capacity limits, how many, like the number of loads it can handle. So the truth about this performance testing enables us to know to prepare for the worst that's coming. Assuming you have a application that you build now, I am now pushing in ads. You know what? You want users now. You know that this application is good and you feel it's very stable. You push ads tomorrow. Now that ads you push tomorrow, for some reason your application is not filling. What just comes up to your mind is like, oh, what did you guys build? Who spoiled it? Or what they built was not well structured, was not done well. The truth is, the idea is that they focused on just that particular number of users. They didn't put their mind that what happens when they actually upscale. So they should be ready to know if you're doing an ad or if you're trying to do any system, you have to be able to know if your system can handle that number. And note, in a particular logic in computer science, there is no infinite when it comes to a system. There's always a finite number of applications the system can handle. So your finite number can be 100,000, can be 200,000, but that depends on what you're trying to achieve, and that depends on the infrastructure you have and how you optimize your code. Yeah, so we should be able to know this to prevent unexpected issues. All right, so where quality lives, right? So QA must be inside the full SDLC lifecycle. I know I mentioned this earlier, so this is to show us like, okay, we have the planning stage, design stage, build stage, test stage, release stage, and operate stage. So usually our mind is like, okay, this is where QA comes in, test stage, which is that be happening in the past, like mostly in waterfall models, right? Sorry, 1 second. I think I need to do. So this is where mostly 1 second, yeah. All right, so we have these full stages, right? And the plan stage, design stage, build stage, test stage, release stage, operate stage. So the part is that we should be able to ensure that our tests, right, starts from the planning stage itself. So we make sure that this is where the stage whereby we ask questions like risk questions, acceptance criteria, and the rest. We should ensure that our test is basically from this plan stage to the operate stage, right? So what I'm going to say is now test case aren't an afterthought. They are shaped from business rules, user journey, integration points, risk areas, test data, performance expectations, and operational failures. Yeah. Okay. All right. So for a recap, right? So why do products still fail despite test automation, right? Basically, because automation alone isn't a quality strategy. So products fail when test automation runs without scope, right? Traceability, root cause discipline, performance testing, and early QA involvement. So fix those things, then the gap closes. So Yeah, similar to what we actually talk about. So these are the five things to remember. And yeah, so automation gives us speed, right? Test management gives direction, but together they give the product confidence itself. So that's all. Thank you very much. So we can go on the questions itself.
So much, James. Thank you for that amazing session. Great. Thank you for coming with that to balance that up. And I love, this final takeaway. It's the highlight of it all. Automation helps you to gain that speed, but then, you need that direction that test management gives. And altogether, you can get some confidence for the product with that. Amazing one. Thank you. So we're going to take questions. Please drop in questions if you have them. I'm going to bring Kristen back up as well, um, so we can take questions. So if you have questions, this is the time for them. Meanwhile, our upvoting is very much there. We Okay, great. So I see things are moving. So please, if you have done that, team, please let's bring the link back in comments. If you've done the upvoting, please let us know in comments. Let us know that yes, you have voted as we take the questions. And if you're yet to do that, please click on the link to do that right away. Looking forward to seeing your votes. Thank you. Great, it's question time. Let's pick up a few. You can drop it directly in the comment section if you have questions. So before we take that, okay. So please let us have your comments. Anybody so far has voted on Product Hunt? Anyone here?
So I have a comment based on James's presentation.
Go ahead.
Just he mentioned taking a look at like actual risks, not just measuring test coverage. And I think that's something I have definitely seen with other companies where they are focused on, oh, well, we've got 95% test coverage, or oh, we've got 1,000 automated tests. Like that number doesn't mean anything unless those tests are actually providing value. So I totally agree with his point that you really need to think about the risks and measuring how well you are testing against those risks.
Absolutely, absolutely. Something we call vanity metrics in the startup world. I think it comes here. So it's not enough to feel good about. Oh, we have 1,000,000,001 automated tests. It doesn't. It doesn't help anybody.
Yeah.
On that, interested. Okay, thank you, Imran, for upvoting. Um, Yeah, please also drop questions. By the way, you can reach out to Christian and James on LinkedIn. Christian also dropped links to our books and courses. Please make sure you check those out. Amazing, amazing contributions to knowledge. You want to check them out through those links. We're going to bring back those links so you can see them as well. Please make sure to check them out. Okay, so while we're on this, so I'm just gonna ask a particular question. For a lot of people who build products, sit on the product team. There's this, and I know Christian touched on it a little bit. Your unit tests, tests you run, on UI tests you run on your local versus what you run after being merged to. It could be staging or dev or whatever it is. Which ones should you make more robust, like kind of give more focus on? What do you think?
Well, personally, I would focus more on testing against the QA environment, but that doesn't mean that you should neglect the staging and production environments. Sometimes people are very afraid to test in production with automated tests, but if you have like a special test account that you can use for production, or if you are running tests that just retrieve data rather than change data, your production automation can be very safe. So I definitely wouldn't neglect that.
Great, thank you. So I see a question here. Um, is it possible for a product to be well tested and still fail?
That's a great question. I think it would depend on how you're defining well tested. If well tested means that you've got good coverage, that you are testing all of your key flows, then yeah, I guess I would call that well tested, but it can still fail for other reasons. And just like James mentioned, performance is a really, really important consideration. Like maybe your tests work really wonderfully when you're running with just one user, but maybe when you're running with 1,000 users at a time, the whole thing falls over. So that's definitely a reason why something might fail.
Great, yeah. That provides some context into why, because a lot of the times the mistake I see people make is that we do not factor the changes in environment. For example, because this is something on your stage in a dev environment and it worked fine, now in production, expect it to work fine as well. It doesn't have the same load. Maybe even the servers are not of the same capacity. Different mix of things that could have contributed to that change in behavior. So yeah, it's very important to take into cognizance parts performance, and where you're doing your tests, and just some other things that could um, contribute to that change. Yeah, there is a question here around: in the advent of AI, is there a way to have agents deployed to run scenarios, and can they capture end-to-end scenarios? Maybe I should add on top of that, how best can you make sure that is working well for you?
Is James still here? Does James want to take that one?
James, can you come up?
But the thing now is, you have to first of all do the starting
Do you want
point
to
for
take that again?
like yes, you can use AI to do it, but the thing now is you have to first of all set it up. Like basically, you have to first of all don't do the ground rules, right? Your AI running end-to-end test scenarios. I will assume that you already have your different scenarios that are already created, because the way you work with AI in the waves, if you allow AI to start that thing from beginning for you, it's going to give you scenarios that doesn't make sense. For example, now let's say you want to work, you have like a application that has login, that has value that has dashboard and settings, right? You have login, dashboard, and settings. Let's use this three as example. So the best way to work with this is that you have already worked on the login. You are basically right. You have a testing a script, a method of how you write your scripts. Right. For UI now, for example, Playwright, use Playwright to actually automate your system for UI. You write your scripts, you're using BDD method, because if you said you want to use AI, just write prompts and tell it to actually automate that system for you. It can do any methodology for you that it will be very difficult for you to trace. It can be so disorganized and it might not even cover the scenarios you want it to cover. So the best approach is to first of all do the ground rules, right? Do the first one that it's not that long, like a login one, for example. Then write a clause. If I think clause, for example, just write the rules of what you want to achieve in claude.md. Make sure the things you want to achieve is either the BDD method, if you want to use BDD, page object model, all those kind of things. And if you write the rules enough, then you now use AI to work on the rest and it helps you to automate it. But always test it to ensure that what it actually does for you, it's what you're expecting. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Yes, the thing about AIs is you should understand the product. The better context you provide, the better instruction you provide, the better results you can get. So while there are amazing, improvements with what AI can do, different from what it was. And I know a lot of us are still with what AI used to be in 2023, 24, 25. Well, there's a whole lot of, amazing improvements that's coming, and your models are increasingly more capable to do amazing stuff. But it does not take away the direction that you need to give. You're the experienced testing professional. You know and have context about your product, about so many things around it, and that is invaluable context that the AI could use. By the way, Rover AI, we talked about Rover AI, and the launch Rover AI is an AI tool that can help you not only generate scenarios but actually execute on them. And one amazing thing I love about Rover AI, is the Rover CLI, right? Which is so a new part of it. So just like Kristen was talking about how important it is to actually run tests, not just at the end, not just UI tests, not just when everything is deployed already. You want to test at that point. You want to test as you're building and generate tests for the feature area that you're working on. Rover CLI helps you to do that. But general testing, you can just simply put in your URL, the goals that you need to achieve, and that's it. It's going to generate tests. You don't have to start doing step by step, write script to say, okay, you go here, then here, then here. It just simply goes to your product, understand what it's about, understands the goal, and then tries to achieve that. So that's a cue to go to Product Hunt to upvote Rover AI if you're yet to do that. Let's see how we're doing on Product Hunt um, before we move on to. You can still drop your questions. I'm still gonna pick one or two more questions, but let's see how we're doing over there on Product Hunt. Okay, okay. I see 101 points right here. So please, you can still do this. Come here to Rover AI. You have the link right there in the comments. Please click on the link and click on upvote. If you're not already signed in, once you click on upvote, you'll be prompted to sign in or create an account, whatever is applicable to you. So I can see another person just upvoted. So please do that. And let's know in the comments when you've done that. Thank you so much for doing that. Okay, I think we have one. Oh, okay, so I see a comment there from Christine. Um, okay, so I'm bringing this up so everybody can read that comment. Thank you for dropping that. Okay, great. So let us move on so we can conclude the session. Okay, that's a different screen. Okay, so we talked about Rover AI, and I just told you what Rover AI is. Rover AI is your autonomous AI tester and built for teams. So whether you're a tester yourself and you want to do things much more faster without having to write step by step stuff, um, you have Rover here without having to write scripts, take a lot of time to do that or do a lot of maintenance. Frankly, the major challenge with test automation is maintenance, because um, things could break, things could change. There's a lot of things that happen that cause your test that has been previously built to not work anymore, and you have to maintain that. But Rover AI does not lock in on specific tests or specific steps or scripts. Rather, it's locked in on goals. So you just define, hey, I want to confirm that login should be so, or I want to confirm that whatever it is. Again, I prefer to go with Kristen's advice to test one thing, right, and not everything altogether. So you could just dump your PRD, for example, or your test case document into Rover AI, and then it's going to generate goals from there, and it's going to run all of those tests. So that is what Rover AI is about. So I'm going to show us a very short how it works for Rover AI, and then we can go ahead to the final part of this session.
Hi guys. So today I'm going to be telling you about Rover. Rover is an autonomous testing agent. Rover can
By the way, all of these are available on
Hi
YouTube.
guys. So today I'm going to be telling you about Rover. Rover is an autonomous testing agent. Rover can help you test your software with little to no human intervention. So let's get into what Rover can do. So with Rover, you are testing your requirements. So Rover can help you test your product requirements and ensure that everything works fine. So now let's see how that works. Now, what I would do, so on Rover, you would call a test a goal. So a goal being one of your product requirements. So now to get started testing with Rover, you would to test. So I'll provide a URL. Is a sign up flow. Now, the interesting thing about this sign up flow is, hi guys. So today I'm going to be telling you about Rover. Rover is an autonomous testing software with little to no human intervention. So let's get into what Rover can do. So with Rover, you are testing your requirements. So Rover can help you test your product requirements and ensure that everything works fine. So now let's see how that works. Now, what I would do, so on Rover, you would call a test a goal. So a goal being one of your product requirements. To get started testing with Rover, you would need base URL to the application you want to test, since we're testing a web application. So I'll provide a URL. Now, what I want to test is a registration flow, a sign-up flow. Sign-up flow is, it has an email process where you need to get to your email inbox and pick up a process. So we're going to see how Rover does its magic to complete sign-up process. So now I would spell out my goal in here. So I would say confirm that sign up successfully and onboarding steps. So this is my goal. I'm leaving it as open as possible for Rover. Now, I didn't specify anything more, no credentials, just need Rover to go and explore. So what I would do then, now Rover is going to launch a new browser in the cloud to open up our application and start to test. Now, in real time, we can follow Rover's actions right. So you can see a quick glance of get to expand the screenshot. You can see on the screen the application we want to test has loaded. Reverse clicked on the sign up page to get to the sign up. It has a full name because there is a full name field. Then it imputes a company name also, and then an email address automatically. See. Hi guys. So today I'm going to be telling you about Rover. Rover is an autonomous testing agent. Rover can help you test your software with little to no human intervention. So let's get into what Rover can do. So with Rover, you are testing your requirements. So Rover can help you test your product requirements and ensure that everything works fine. So now let's see how that works. Now what I would do, so on Rover, you would call a test a goal. So a goal being one of your product requirements. So now to get started testing with Rover, you would need base URL to the application you want to test, since we're testing a web application. So I'll provide a URL. Now, what I want to test is a registration flow, a sign-up flow. Now, the interesting thing about this sign-up flow is it has an email verification process where you need to get to your email inbox and pick up a verification code and use it to complete the sign-up process. So we're going to see how River does its magic to complete sign-up process. So now I would spell out my goal in here. So I would say confirm that I can sign up successfully and complete all onboarding steps. So this is my goal. I'm leaving it as open as possible for Rover. Now, I didn't specify anything more, no credentials, no details, nothing more. I just need Rover to go and explore and test this out for me. So what I would do then is to click on execute test. Now, Rover is going to launch a new browser in the cloud to open up our application and start to test. Now, in real time, we can follow Rover's actions right here as they happen. So you can see a quick glance of what's happening. You can click here to expand the screenshot. You can see on the screen the application we want to test has loaded. Reverse clicked on the sign up page to get to the sign up view. Then it enters a full name because there is a full name field. Then it imputes a company name also, and then an email address. So it is able to create an email address automatically. Now, the interesting thing about Rover is Rover actually provisions a mailbox for your workspace where you can receive real emails. So with the Rover mailbox, you're able to generate unlimited, unique, and dynamic emails. So testing registration flows, you're always guaranteed that you can have a new email and it is valid and genuine every time you want to test your sign up process. Is that interesting? Then Rover goes on to do the rest of the steps, types in a password, then it clicks on the sign up button. Then the app displays a page for verification. So after it has clicked on the sign up button, now there is a verification field. So we're expecting the application to send uh, an OTP code to the registered email address. So let's see what happens. Interestingly, now Scanjam has gotten an OTP code from the email inbox. So this, it is going to input the codes into the box. So we can see the codes being imputed here. Then after everything is done, it clicks on the verify button. As we can see here, after it has imputed all of the codes, then it waits for verification to happen. Now verifications has happened. We can see a toast notification to that effect, and we are on an onboarding screen. We can see next, then it goes on to even create a project, and then the process is complete. We can see our success message here, so which indicates that Rover has been able to run this test from start to finish with almost no input from me. So we can view the full report by clicking on that button, which brings us here. Interestingly, Rover shows you a video execution or a video playback of the test. So you can go back and see everything that happened during the course of the test. You can play back this video. You can see every single step that was done. With screenshots here showing you the application, the values imputed, you would be able to see the actions it took, the reasoning behind it. So this was the email inbox where he got our OTP code from. So he was able to get the OTP code and also uh, do the verification, as we can see here, imputing the verification code into the verification boxes. Yes, and at the end of it all, we can see that our sign up and onboarding process was completed successfully. Rover, very easy and smooth to use.
It's amazing, amazing. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. That was the Rover in action video from the team. So thank you very much for everyone for staying to this moment. This is one of the periods that we've all been waiting for. We've done our conversation topic with our speakers. We've also had a conversation with our second speaker as well. And please, I hope we've been able to go on Products on page and upvote. Very, very important. It is very important. Please, if you haven't done that yet, probably you are just joining us during the course of this webinar. Please, it is very important. The link to the Products Odds page is going to be dropped in the comment section. So please make sure, it's very, very important. Make sure you click on that link and go and upvote. Go and upvote for us. Thank you very much. All right. This is the trivia and games session. So I'll be handing over this session to Ibrahim. So a couple of questions are going to be displayed on the screen. And for those that are not new to our trivia, we have a few questions and you are supposed to answer them correctly. So the faster you answer, the better your results. That is because there's a ladder. So the faster you answer your questions, the higher you go on the ladder. So without further ado, I'll be leaving this session to Ibrahim. So once we are done with that session, that's our trivia session, we'll come back and continue with the rest of the webinar. So thank you very much. Ibrahim, the floor is yours. Thank you.
These are interesting.
Okay, so while we are waiting for our display to come up, I hope we've all been able to learn one of two things from, pick a few insights from what our speakers have been able to do. So we have the first question, yes. I believe that we can see the screen as well. So we have the first question on the screen. So get ready. I don't know if people have been able to join. So please join the link. Ibrahim, please, can you drop the link to join the trivia games in the comment section? And our speakers are also allowed to join the game, so it's fine. You can play as well. Christine, James, you can join in the trivia session as well. It's very, very fine. It makes the session all fun as well for everybody. So the link to join the trivia session is already dropped in the comments. So please click on the link and join. We are waiting. The question is waiting for you. So we're just waiting for everybody to join. I don't know if we can see the amount of people that have joined yet. All right, we still have more people that are going
Okay,
to
if it's
join.
trying to join, if it's still trying to join, and you want um, to participate, you can drop in comment and let us know so we can wait. Else, we're gonna start in another 30 seconds. Again, it's been an amazing time, and this is to wrap it up. Okay, simple questions, by the way. I mean, just play and
Yeah,
enjoy yourself. Product hunt is still ever there. It is still there. You can still go on product hunt and vote, upvote rather.
yeah.
Okay, in 10 seconds, let's get started on this. Hopefully, everyone that wants to join has joined by then.
All right, our first question for today. What is the primary purpose of test traceability? What's the primary purpose of test traceability? Everybody is allowed to participate in this game. Mm, okay. Next question, please. Next question. We can see our leaderboard. So the more questions we answer, the more we move ahead on the board. All right, and for those of you that don't know, there's a cash prize for the winner of this trivia session. So I'll just encourage you to take it serious. All right, we are having our second question. Which metric best reflects meaningful test coverage? Which metric best reflects meaningful test coverage? Okay, we can see some people
You can
moving up
still
on the
join.
leaderboard,
You can
and we
still
can
join if you're
see
just coming
some
in.
moving down on the leaderboard. So please, the link is in the comment section. You can still join. Question three. Question three. Keep on joining. Keep on answering the questions. Question three. Question three. What indicates poor test management in CI/CD pipelines? What indicates poor test management in CI/CD pipelines? Fast, 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 fast. Okay, wonderful, wonderful. We can see people picking up points and some people not picking up points at all. So I mean, it's not too late. You can still join. You can lead the board if you are very lucky. Next question: which approach improves test suit maintainability? Yes. Which approach improves test suit maintainability? Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. You can see the questions are not hard at all. Based on the speed at which our audience are responding to the questions, you can see it's not hard. Okay, the leaderboard is still going up. All right, question 5. What is the main purpose of tagging in test system? What is the main purpose of tagging in in test system? All right, amazing, amazing. You can see people responding. The floor is still very much open for others to join. You can still join the quiz. It's not too late at all. All right. In risk-based testing, what drives prioritization? In risk-based testing, what drives prioritization? All right. We can see sweet answers from the audience. Let's see what's on the leaderboard. What's on the leaderboard? What's on the leaderboard? Who is stopping the chart on the leaderboard? Who is stopping? We have Sniper. Sniper is stopping. We have Mike. Okay, Sniper is still topping. Question 7 of 11. Question 7 of 11. What do we have? What do we have? What do we have? This is quite interesting. Very interesting. I hope our speakers are also participating. Christine and James. I hope you guys are also participating in the trivia. All right, what is test pod primarily used for? I believe that during the course of this of our webinar for today, we've also touched base and mentioned some of our products that we have at Scandium. That's test pod aside from Rover AI that we have and we're launching today. We have test pod. Since people have answered, it is a test management tool. Um, we have Scandium, our test automation tool, and we also have Rover AI. So yes, I think I answered that already. So TestPod is primarily a test management tool. Question 8. Question 8. What best describes test depth in QA systems? What best describes test depth in QA systems? Quick answer, quick answer. Let's see, let's see, let's see. What do we have? Outdated and unused tests. Amazing. We can see the leaderboard is going higher. We still have Sniper topping the list. Ibrahim, I hope you are not Sniper, though, sha, because it feels like Sniper has not even filled any question since we have to investigate who this Sniper is. Question 9 of 11. Question 9 of 11. What do we have? What indicates poor test observability in systems? What indicates poor test observability in systems? What do we have? What do we have? What do we have? Responses. What do we have? Okay. Hmm. What's who's on our leaderboard? Who's stopping the leaderboard? We have Sniper. I think Mike has gone down. Let's see. There's Virtue. There's Momdu. Question 10. Second is the last question for our quiz. Okay. What do we have? What do we have? What do we have? What is the goal of test orchestration in QA? What is the goal of test orchestration in QA? Quick answer, quick answer, quick answer, quick answer. Hmm. strengths and okay, coordinating and execution. Okay, leaders. Who's on our leaderboard? Who is topping? Sniper is okay. Sniper is no longer topping. We have, I think that's Momdu, if I'm saying that correctly. Then there's Sniper, then there's Mike. I hope none of our team members at Scandium are on this list because I mean we are supposed to give our audience the chance to cash cash in or cash out from this. Okay, last question. Which matrix best measures test effectiveness? Which matrix best measures? That's defect detection rate. All right, amazing, amazing. That is the last question on our trivia. And I believe that about now, who is leading the board is going to show. Let's see who is leading, who is leading. Ooh, I think we have our winner already. Maedu. Who is Maedu, please? Maedu, if you can hear me, please drop a comment in the comment section. I hope our speakers are not the ones that Maedu. Okay, Maedu, I can see you um, responding in the comment section. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. All right, I believe that we have our winner already. We have our winner for the trivia session. Amazing, Maedu. So, please send Ibrahim or I a DM on our Slack community or on our WhatsApp community. If you are not part of our community, this is the queue for you to go and join. We have a WhatsApp community, we have a Slack community. So please make sure you reach out to Ibrahim on our community channel and you have a $20 price, cash prize to win. So congratulations to you, Maedu. You just won yourself a $20 cash prize. Thank you very much. Congratulations. Let's say congratulations to Maedu. You just won yourself $20 prize for oatmeal. Quick oatmeal as you're going into the weekend. Congratulations. Okay, okay. Amazing, amazing. All right. We want to say a very big thank you to everybody. Also, please let's not forget to upvote on product hunt. It is very, very, very important, please. It is very important. If you haven't done that yet, please make sure you go and do that now. The link is in the comment section right about now. So please go and check it. Please make sure you go and click on the link. We're going to be waiting. I think we'll give a couple of seconds to everybody. Please go on product hunt. There's a link in the comment section already. Please go on that, click on that link and please vote on product hunt. Click on that link and vote on product hunt. It's very, very important. Maedu, I hope you have voted for us on product hunt. It's not to be fair if you are taking our oatmeal cash price and you have not voted for us. So please, if you haven't done that yet, make sure you do that as soon as possible. So we're waiting for a couple of seconds. We are rounding off already. We're rounding off today's session. Please make sure you upvote. I'll be waiting here for a couple of seconds. I believe that we still have our speakers on the call. Christine, are you still here? James, are you here? Hello, Christine. Hello, James. Are you still with us? All right. So please, we're still waiting just a couple of seconds before we round off today's webinar. So please, if you haven't upvoted on Upwork yet, on product hunt yet, please let's make sure we do that as soon as possible. Very important. Let's do that. Product hunt, it's very important to vote, upvote. There's a link, and the link is already displayed. Please, product hunt, upvoting. It is very important. As of the last time I checked, we have 100 upvotes. So by now we should have more. We should have more from our audience. We should have more, please. We should have more from our audience. If you have upvoted, please let me see you say done in the comment section. Let me say done. I just did mine again. Let me see you say done in the comment section. If you have upvoted, please say done in the comment section so that we can round off today's webinar. Just say done. If you have upvoted on product owns, please say done. Thank you very much, Virtue. Thank you very much. Maedu, I've not seen your response yet. To Maedu, I've not seen your response. Please respond. Let's know if you've upvoted for us on product on so that we can round off today's session. So let's move to the next slide, please. Um, while we are up voting on products on, I just want to say, please don't forget to follow us on all our social media platforms at Get Scandium. It's the same social media handle across all our social media platforms. That's LinkedIn, that's Instagram, that's X, formerly known as Twitter. We also have a Slack community and a WhatsApp community that you can join. So if you are not yet a part of this community, please make sure you join that. There's a QR code currently being displayed on your screen. Scan that QR code and be a part of our WhatsApp community. Once you scan that code, it's going to redirect you to our WhatsApp community so you can join and be a part of it. And why do you need to join our WhatsApp community? So that you can stay updated on all the events and happenings around Scandium, our upcoming events, our quarterly webinars, our monthly X space, our product launch, every of the things that we're doing surrounding Scandium. Once you follow us on our social media platforms, you'll be able to stay updated on it. And you're also able to attend our events. All right, so it is very, very important you do that. I can't overemphasize this enough. Please let's make sure we upvote Rover AI on product hunts. Aside from doing it ourselves, please let's send it to our friends, our co-workers, our family members. Share it as a broadcast to your contacts. Share it as a LinkedIn post. Share it as a social media post. The point is to push much word out as much as possible. We want to push out the word into the text space that Rover AI has launched today, and we want people to test our products. We want people to use our products and be able to, like, give us feedbacks and book a demo session with us. Jacob.
Thank you very much, everyone. It's been an amazing session with you. More importantly, yes, a vote on Product Hunt, but please go on to rover.qa and try out Rover. I mean, whether you're a tester, you're an person, you're a founder, whatever it is, go on there and ask Rover to test your product. All you need is a URL. You need to upload your build and then just provide the instructions. You don't need to start, knowing how to create test or step-by-step test. Just provide the goal. I want to confirm that this product can do ABC, XYZ, and give it the URL. And that's it. You're good to go. You're going to get screenshots, console logs, and all of that. And you can do lots of amazing things. Check out YouTube. We have amazing videos up there on YouTube that can help you with this. And our final slide, next steps. We have this session quarterly. So we're going to have another edition next quarter. So please stay tuned and look forward to that. We're going to have another set of amazing speakers. Visit app.getscaling.com to try it out, web and mobile. Share your feedback with us and book demo course for yourself and your team. And make sure you follow us and engage with our posts on social media and in our community. Till we see you again, guys. Have a blast. Bye.
All right, bye everyone. Thank you very much for joining. Thank you very much. Bye bye.